Welcome, folks, back to the Craig Bushon Show, live from Reale's Italian Cafe right here in Austin, Texas. You know, and I have had to suffer, I got to tell you. The last segment with Tom Hawken is that you saw his food get delivered and he was able to eat it. And many people have been eating around us, me and the staff. And after this broadcast, we are going to be eating here. And I'm going to tell you, we're also going to have the owner on, Gino, and we're going to talk a little bit about where we're at today and how you can get, get here and eat here. But you, this person to my left, Betty Beckworth, you ate here also, and it's good, right?
It was fabulous. It was the best Italian food ever.
And who Betty is? She's director of the Office of Acquired Brain Injury, and that's for the Texas Health and Human Services Commission. And that's a long title. And today we're going to be focusing in on TBI, you know, which is also PTSD plays into that too, and not just in our military, which we will be focusing on, but also, you know, if a child falls off a skateboard and hits their head, they can get TBI. And you know, and the bottom line is it's a broad subject, and I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for lunch and the pleasure to visit with everybody. It's great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, it's all about bringing people together, you know, and having great conversations and getting with leadership, with it, whether it's local, state, or federal. But it's a big issue dealing with traumatic brain injury and PTSD that we're hearing a lot more about because of what's happened in the last decade or two within our military and the wars that we've had and the battles. But tell the folks a little bit about what it is to be the director of Office of Acquired Brain Injury.
It's the most amazing thing, other than my children, I believe, that's happened in my entire life. It's such an honor, Craig, to have this position. In 2007, the Texas legislature created the Office of Acquired Brain Injury in response to the growing number of service members who were returning from combat in Iraq at the time with traumatic brain injuries and PTSD. And the state of Texas wanted to be proactive because, as you know, Texas is home to 25% of the nation's fighting forces, and as time goes on, especially with the new Polytrauma Center in San Antonio, more people will be coming in who require those services. So our legislature and the governor were aware of the fact that we had this problem and that we need to address it. So they created the Office of Acquired Brain Injury to not provide direct services, but to build a network and a safety net, and to provide referral and coordination of services for people with brain injuries, not just veterans, but all people, regardless of the age, whether it's young children or an elderly person. And so over the last almost 5 years now, we've been able to develop robust programs, and we're very proud of the veterans programs that we have in the outreach and the federal, state, and local partnerships that we have all the way from the Department of Defense to local communities to get the services that our servicemen and women need, and we're so proud to be able to help that happen.
And it's not something that's new. I mean, this is, you know, TBI and PTSD have been around for as long as human beings have been around. You know, in World War I, World War II, in the military side, you'd call it shell-shocked, and you know, or you wouldn't call it anything at all. And also, like we talked about, you could get a car accident, you could have a stroke, you could have, you could hit your head, you know, because a kid was riding a skateboard, whatever, and that's how you can get TBI. But there's these combined situations are happening where, you know, today when we're focusing on our veterans, we have a lot of people who have seen traumatic things, have went through a tremendous amount of some hostile situations, visually seen it, and then also physically experienced it. So they not only have the problem of maybe TBI, but then they have the PTSD laid on top of that because of what they've been exposed to, and that's a very complex situation. And you know, and that's very taxing on society, where really at any given time 1% are really serving in the military in this country. So the bottom line is that the real 99%ers, they need to be educated on, you know, how do we assist those who have really put themselves in harm's way, and to get them the help that they need, and steer the people who are watching this who don't even know where to go And that's why I'm so excited about what we're doing today, because information's power.
Yes, it is, and it's so important for people to understand this. And, you know, traumatic brain injury is what we generally think of as blows or jolts to the head or penetrating wounds that affect the brain. When the legislature created my office, they wanted to use the broader term, which is acquired brain injury, that includes everything from a stroke or a heart attack or meningitis. West Nile fever and meningitis can create brain injuries, tumors, all sorts of things. So even our returning warriors who are coming back may have brain injuries that are not associated with a blow or jolt to their head. It could be toxic exposure. They could be continuously exposed to jet fuel or some sort of other chemical agents, toxic agents, over a prolonged period of time. So, you know, there are many causes.
Well, it's like Agent Orange in World War II being sprayed out to kill the foliage in the jungles, so you could see, so our people could see the adversary, and then the side effects that that's had, even with diabetes and all that type of stuff that's out there. I mean, we don't always know why we have problems. You know, it could be the chemicals, it could be the concussion, it could be, you know, a roadside bomb, it could be falling off your bike. But the reality is that it's not new. But what is new is the volume of people we're having to deal with now, and how in a short window that they're coming at. So we have to, on purpose, get really good, really fast at dealing with this.
Exactly, and I'm very fortunate to be asked often to give trainings for veterans and for organizations about TBI and PTSD and where the two conditions intersect, so that employers or family members, claims benefits representatives from the Veterans Commission, and especially law enforcement is extremely keen now to understand this problem and to be able to address it as we have more and more returning home. And the conditions that they face, they have normal responses to abnormal conditions. And they have been through so much, and they have had to be so hyper vigilant that in a stressful situation, people who may not even realize that they've had a brain injury, but much less have it been diagnosed, may react in an angry manner.
Right.
They may have totally inappropriate language. They may have difficulty in cognitive processes, in making verbal responses when their brains are actually processing it, but they can't quite keep the words up with their thoughts. And this is often interpreted as belligerence or disrespect, or maybe just not listening at all. So we've developed a class called Veteran Tactical Response, keeping police officers and veterans safe so that everybody...
Well, talk a little bit about that, because that's a big deal. I've had many judges, local, and then all the way up to the Attorney General's office, you know, the law side of, you know, how does the law deal with people who have these situations, and whether it's the law enforcement, which are police officers that are pulling somebody over, or they're going to a domestic situation, which can be very, very hard to deal with. And you know, the reality is that that type of training to evaluate those people is key. And otherwise, people can deal. The officer who's trying to go out and do the right thing reacts inappropriately to the situation. So that training is really important. So tell a little bit about that.
Okay.
I love it. She brought props. She goes, "Can I bring stuff?" I said, "Absolutely. Where's this video?" So please show.
We have a show and tell, and this is the manual that is in the final stages of development, and it's free of charge to all law enforcement or to anybody else who needs it, because our goal is to ensure that our veterans are safe, that the law enforcement is safe and gets to go home at the end of the day. So we have this training that covers TBI, PTSD, military cultural considerations, and there, the course, the way it developed was Austin Police Department recognized that there was a growing number of veterans-related issues and,
Sure.
and things,
Sure.
incidents that they were being called upon to respond to, and wanted to be equipped to handle this in the best way possible. So this is a partnership with Health and Human Services, Office of Acquired Brain Injury, Austin Police Department, the Texas A&M School of Medicine, the Lone Star Circle of Care at Georgetown, and the VA Center of Excellence for Research on Returning Combat Veterans in Waco. So over the last 3 years, we've worked on this, and our volunteers, our agencies are so generous in letting us develop
Sure,
this.
absolutely.
So it will be a train the trainer course, and it will have an instructor manual. It'll have the PowerPoint presentations in it. It will have resource materials so that people from huge police departments with highly sophisticated technology like Houston, or whether it's
local sheriff's
or
department
whether
somewhere.
or if it's a small town without even a blinking light.
Right.
So we want it to be available in electronic as well as hard copy, electronic media as well as hard copy, so that it will be standardized, and people around the state certainly,
Sure.
and anybody anywhere is welcome.
Well, that's
to
what's
this, and
nice
we
about this.
encourage
It can
it.
be adopted really anywhere. It's universal. And I like the title of it, folks. Keeping Police Officers and Veterans Safe, Law Enforcement's Guide to Working with Veterans with TBI, PTSD, and Homelessness. Because, and you mentioned small towns, many veterans who are disengaged go to small towns, and they're not in the big cities. They get away. Some of them are even squatting in the woods somewhere, which to me it just breaks my heart, and it's unbelievable. We had the Bastrop fires. There were actually people, and it wasn't talked about really in the media, that as the thousands of homes burned down in the fires we had, almost 2 years ago now, I guess, that there was 250-ish of those families were military and veterans, and then there were a dozen or two soldiers or veterans living in the woods. I mean,
That's what they were trained to do.
That's their survival mode, was to go live in the woods. Now, if you're in law enforcement and you encounter this person, you have to be able to know, well, how do I know who this person is? And we want to get a little bit, while we have the time, talk about these cards. These cards could probably play into that somewhat. But these are complex issues that affect from a small little town with a blinking light to a major city like New York or Houston.
Exactly.
And so what are some key things, like this card, for example? Tell the folks what this is. And you can't see this on camera, but it says on the front, "I am a brain injury survivor. Please read the reverse side." Tell the folks about this.
Okay, what we wanted to do often in the instance of a TBI and PTSD, and especially in the instance where there is a coexisting condition, there may be anger management issues, depression, sadness, the inability for cognitive processes to go quickly, as we were saying before, sleeplessness and nausea and ringing in the ears and irritability, and people may become dizzy. And the more stressed they become, the more pronounced these symptoms are going to be. For example, in a routine traffic stop, a law enforcement officer may walk up to a car that has maybe not even a veteran, maybe it's somebody else that's had a brain injury that's been in a bad traffic accident, because I know of other young men who have had bad car crashes who have had these incidents happen, and under the pressure of trying to answer the questions and not being able to get it right, they get frustrated, and they may speak inappropriately. They may actually have some sort of physical action as though they were going to strike out, and of course that just makes the situations worse, and people get arrested, and worse things can happen than that. So we wanted to make sure that whether it's a TSA agent in the airport, teacher or college professor, maybe when they come back to school, anybody that is having a hard time understanding what this person is going through, the person with the brain injury can give them this card. At this time, we have them for free. They're available from the Office of Acquired Brain Injury. You can just Google that, and we'll be glad to send as many as anybody likes. We want to make sure that they get into the hands of the people that need them. They are at the VISNs 16, 17, and 18, and VISNs, all these acronyms and alphabet things.
We're an acronym-rich society.
We are. So it's the Veterans Integrated Network of Services.
Okay.
And those are polytrauma centers. They're TBI centers for veterans. And so they have those there. They have them in San Antonio at BAMC, as other VA centers around the state, and actually across the nation. We are the only state office of brain injury in the United States.
Wow.
So that's a big honor.
Crazy. It almost sounds crazy.
It is crazy. It does sound crazy.
Wow.
But, well, that's because...
Why?
It's because our legislature knew that we needed this, and
other
so
states,
here we are.
that's amazing. 49 other states don't have something that they should have, and this.
Well, they have brain injury programs,
right,
but they're consortiums.
Okay.
But only the Texas legislature enacted an actual office of acquired brain injury.
Right.
So we're really proud of that. But I have to put my glasses on so I can see these. But symptoms of brain injury may include poor coordination, balance, or muscle control. So that's really important for people to recognize, because often somebody with a brain injury may be misconstrued as having substance abuse issues. Maybe maybe they think they're intoxicated, or they've had medication, and their speech may be slurred. They may have impaired attention and concentration, their memory or understanding, particularly short-term memory. Mm-hmm. It might be that if the conversation goes on for 10 minutes, that because of the confusion and the problems that they're having, they may not remember the very first part of it. So difficulty controlling anger and aggressive behavior, we talked about that.
And what's interesting, if the number one is done where they say, well, it looks like you've been drinking tonight, that could make someone angry because of that very assumption that that's happening.
Right, and elicit an angry response.
Exactly right.
And then it goes into a downward spiral and confrontations that really can be so unfortunate. So with the Veteran Tactical Response Program, we've trained members of the Austin Police Department, Critical Incident Team, SWAT, and crisis negotiators. And then we have been amazed that we've been asked to teach the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Special Agents in the Firearms Division.
I would think paramedics. I would think fire department.
Exactly.
First responders. Also judges. Judges need to know what they're dealing with in a courtroom when they have a veteran in front of them. They need to be educated on how somebody is acting within the courtroom or what they did to get into the courtroom. I think everybody within all law enforcement, all the way down to the one who has a gavel, needs to understand what we're dealing with. So we're not putting people in jail as much as we're getting people assistance so we don't have to put them in jail.
That's true. I've taught courses to State Bar Association, Texas State Bar sections, and to some judges and county and district attorneys.
Good.
But we need more of that.
More, absolutely.
If I could work 24 hours a day,
we need to replicate. We need to replicate you.
I would
Betty.
be
That's what
more.
we have to do.
Okay, I would be more than happy to do that, because this is so important.
Well, how do people get involved? People are watching this, okay? How do they get involved? How do they assist? How does the average citizen say, you know what, Betty, I'll help? There could be a retired person out there saying, how do I get involved? Maybe it's a stay-at-home parent that has time when the kids are at school, that has a family member who's a veteran, or a child and one of the children that are veteran. How can they get involved in this? Because I also say, this is the type of training that families need to have. The family themselves who inherit that veteran coming back into the home, they should have specific training that gets them to truly understand, and their children children get their own version of PTSD, inheriting, just specifically in the veterans world, they're dealing with that. I think that there's this type of information is powerful for everyone.
It is, and families are the first ones to recognize the difference.
Sure, absolutely.
And over time, with numerous deployments, every time somebody has to experience the things that they have to experience, nobody can possibly be the same. So it's the family that realizes that first. So actually, here's two more things that would be helpful.
It. Excellent.
At no charge, we have 2 DVDs in English and in Spanish, and they are fully American with Disabilities compliant. They are closed captioned. They are JAWS approved, and they are designed. They're professionals in the brain injury field as well as survivors and care members, and each one of them features veterans issues with TBI, and they're DVDs. They come in 10 to 15 minute segments, so you don't have to watch the whole thing all at one time. And I invite anybody to get in touch with us, and we'll be glad to send this. And it covers everything from little children to elderly to veterans.
This is an interesting thing. Right at the beginning of the paragraph on the back, this is a very powerful, statement. By the year 2020, folks, brain injury is expected to be the #1 public health problem in the world. Due to life-saving techniques of modern medicine, there is a large and growing population of individuals with brain injury. And really, that really saying is, because we're so good at saving people's lives that normally would have passed away, whether it's a car accident, falling off their bicycle, or in war, we can keep them alive, but they are not the same person that they were before completely. And that's a major statistic right there.
It is a major statistic. Right now, brain injury is the 4th leading cause of death in the United States. And this is statistics from the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. And brain injury has more victims every year than many other diseases: breast cancer, HIV/AIDS, heart attack and stroke combined.
Wow.
And a lot of people aren't aware that they have brain injuries. And we were talking yesterday before the program that, for example, in the state of Texas, there are 2.5 times as many people with brain injuries from heart attack and stroke than there are from TBIs.
Sure.
But the only records that are kept as far as TBI are those discharge data for someone who's actually admitted to the hospital and stays overnight. So this doesn't include a child that gets a baseball, is in Little League, and a baseball comes up and hits him in the head, or someone who falls, or
a health medical issue.
Whatever it is, if you're not hospitalized and there's not discharge data, the TBIs aren't captured. So we virtually have no idea the exact number of people who have brain injuries, but it affects people's lives, it affects their employment, it affects their family relationships, and the more that we can help, it's going to help individuals, it will help our society, it will help our state with fiscal matters, because if we can get an early identification, the younger the better, so that we'll be able to get cognitive and behavioral interventions that are really simple. You don't have to go to the hospital, you don't have to have a lot of major medical expense.
Sure.
There are things, and on our website we have a resources and services directory on the Office of Acquired Brain Injury website.
Well, I'll tell you, I suspect many of you out there are many, many people out there that could come out of the darkness who need something like this and say, well, you're right. My child fell 19 years ago off his bicycle. My father had this happen to him. and it was not diagnosed, or we didn't reach out, or we were embarrassed, or we believed that there wasn't any help. That helps build statistics. Getting people to show up, knock on the door, say, here, I'm here. I need help, I need assistance. And that's really what we need. There's so many people suffering in this country from traumatic brain injuries and PTSD from a myriad of reasons. I mean, the silver lining, you know, is the best way I can say it to what our veterans are going through. It's shining a light on PTSD and TBI that needs to be there, because there are many millions of more people in this country and across the world that should be getting assistance that are not.
That's exactly right, and we're here to help in any way we can. Right now, my staff is small. It's me and one other person, but we work diligently and we respond to people on the telephone, and these courses are available. They're also, you can reproduce these.
Okay. Good.
As many times as you can, and we try to provide the most current information on our website that's possible. There are two online programs that you can reach through traintexas.org. There's one that's like a brain injury 101. Actually, it's called Brain Injury, the Silent Epidemic, because of the paragraph you read there, that it is such a huge public health problem, but you don't recognize it. It's not.
Absolutely.
There isn't a wound. There isn't a visible scar. You can't
right.
see it. So I would encourage people to do that. There's one that is says it's for 211 call center representatives, and it is. We train all 211 Texas call center representatives on an ongoing basis, and they're certified annually. But that particular course is very informative and very helpful, because it is on communication skills and how to talk to someone with a brain injury, or how to work with their family members.
Right.
So we have a lot of resources that are there. They're available at no charge to the public.
And again,
whatsoever.
give the folks the website they should go to. I'll also say that I'm going to get with Gabe, and who does a lot of our video production, and we need to get some of these posted up on the site and see, so people can just go there and watch them. You know, and we all can do our own thing and help build a place for people to go to. So when they're watching our programming and they say, boy, I'd sure like to be able to watch that right this second, load it up on the site, they can go there, click it, and then there it is, and it's broken up in these 15-minute segments or whatever. But if people want to get in touch with you, get a copy of this, and again, it's also in Hispanic, okay? So there is maybe it should be in all languages, I guess, right? Eventually, but the reality is that more people need to get it. So how do they do that?
If they will just do a search for the Office of Acquired Brain Injury, the URL is really long. So
that's okay. But they can Google something and they
get there. If they Google, and the first thing that's going to come up is Office of Acquired Brain Injury.
Okay.
So we're proud to be here with you today to help families and people with brain injuries, healthcare providers, anybody that we can, because this is such an important issue in people's lives, and this can make a difference, and we're here to help. And
absolutely. Well, I'll tell you.
Thank you so much for making this possible.
Thank you so much. And what we need to do is continue the conversation. This won't be the last one. Maybe we need to go to the police department and do another show with them and talk to them about how it's going with them and the issues that they're dealing with, and how they are and what they are strategically doing, just like with this program. And keep the information out there so people can grasp it, get it, and then get the assistance that you need. And again, Betty Beckworth, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And may I say one thing?
Absolutely.
It's really important for people to understand that someone that has a brain injury is not defective.
That's right.
They are still the same person that they were. You may have to work with them at a slower pace.
Right.
You may have to give somebody more time, and I think that's especially important as our servicemen and women return home.
Absolutely
and now
right.
at holiday time.
Yeah, it's a very stressful time.
It's a very stressful time anyway. So the more that we can do to get information out there and make people aware that there's help and there's hope and there are people who care and want to do whatever we all can, and we have a really strong network of state, local, federal partners, and we all do this at the very best we can, and
sure.
we're proud of what we've done, and we're here to help. All people have to do is call.
Absolutely right. Folks, you are not alone. And it could be just, we're speaking to that one person right now, that one person who happens to see this, and you may be in that dark place for whatever reason that it is. Please know you are not alone.
And please reach out, because there are those here who want to help you and can help you.
Absolutely right.
And tomorrow will be a brighter day.
That's exactly right. We're all in this together, folks, and it's the right thing to do. Get involved, and then stay involved. Betty Beckworth, Director of Office of Acquired Brain Injury, thank you so much for coming on the show today. God bless you. Well, there you have it, folks. That's the type of stuff that you have to know, because if you don't know what you don't need to know, you can't make the best decision. And please take this information and use it. Get it to the people that you know that may need it, that's in your family, that are friends, it could be your neighbor. Make sure that you do it. Check out, there are videos out there. So, listen, the bottom line is, folks, and I say it all the time, the reason we have to do this is because we're all in this together, and it's the right thing to do. This is Craig Bushon from Reale's Italian Cafe, and in just a few moments, check back in, because we're going to be sitting down with Gino, and he runs this place, and it's a family affair. It's been here a long time, and he's also a veteran of the United States Navy. It's a great story. We'll be back.